The library was my sanctuary, silent, dusty, and safe from the chaos of the outside world. I worked there part-time, spending my evenings surrounded by books that no one else seemed to care about anymore. That's why I noticed immediately when something was off. It was past closing time, and I was finishing up shelving the last card of returns. The overhead lights buzzed faintly as I moved between the rows of towering shelves. The only sound was the creak of my shoes on the worn wooden floor. Then I heard it, a faint rustle. I froze, my heart jumping into my throat. No one else should have been there. The doors were locked. The lights outside the windows were long dimmed. I held my breath and turned toward the sound. There, between the shelves of ancient history and astronomy, someone stood. A woman. But she wasn't just a woman. She was tall and elegant, her figure draped in something that shimmered faintly, like liquid silver woven into fabric. Her skin had the faintest hue of blue, almost imperceptible under the yellow glow of the library lights. Her hair, impossibly long, floated around her as if gravity couldn't quite get a hold of it, strands of white gold energy glowing softly. And her eyes were huge and brilliant, twin galaxies swirling in a sea of black. I stumbled back, the cart rattling as it slammed into a shelf. She turned her head sharply, her gaze locking onto mine. My first instinct was to bolt, to run screaming into the night, but I couldn't move. I was frozen by those eyes. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out. How did you get here?" She tilted her head, almost bird-like, and took a small step forward. Her bare feet made no sound on the wood. "You speak," she said. Her voice was soft but resonated, like a bell ringing underwater. "You are human? What else would I be?" I stammered. Her gaze lingered on me for a moment longer before drifting up, scanning the shelves that surrounded her. "Where am I?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "You're in a library. A public library. In New York." She blinked, clearly unfamiliar with the words. "New York? You don't know what New York is?" I asked, my voice rising. She shook her head slowly. "This place is strange. The energy here, it vibrates, but it is quiet. Nothing like the waypoints." "The what?" I asked. Are you an alien?" She looked at me again, her expression unreadable. "Your term for it, perhaps." I gripped the edge of the cart for balance, my mind spinning. I'd read stories like this in the dusty old science fiction novels I loved so much, but this was different. She was real. Her presence hummed in the air, like the static before a storm. "I don't understand," I said. "How did you get here?" "You just appeared." Her eyes darkened, and for the first time, I saw something like fear flash across her face. There was a rift, a tear in the fabric between. I was pulled through. She looked back at the shelves. "This place holds knowledge. I can feel it. Perhaps here I can find the answer." "The answer to what?" "To return." I stared at her. A part of me wanted to help. She didn't seem threatening, but another part of me was screaming that this was impossible, that I should be calling the police, the military, someone. Instead, I did what I knew best. I turned to the books. "You think there's something in here that can help you?" I asked. "Your species has forgotten much," she said. "But you write. You record. In your words may lie the path." For the next hour, I helped her. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear, or maybe because she looked so lost despite her otherworldly grace. She moved among the shelves, her glowing hair brushing the books as if drawing something from them. I handed her texts on physics, theories of wormholes, and accounts of ancient mythology. She flipped through them faster than I thought possible, her fingers skimming the pages as light pooled from her touch. "What are you looking for?" I asked eventually. "Patterns," she murmured. "There are always patterns." She paused suddenly, her eyes snapping up to meet mine. "There? What?" I asked, leaning over to see what she was pointing at. It was an old book, its pages yellowed and torn. The passage she had found described an ancient civilization's myths about doors between worlds, thin places where reality folded in on itself. "This is true," she said softly. "Your people once knew of the folds." "The folds?" I echoed. "You mean rifts? Between worlds?" "Yes." Her voice trembled. "But the knowledge has faded." Her fingers traced the page, and as they did, a faint blue light pulsed from her skin. The air in the library shifted. The lights overhead flickered. I took a step back, my heart hammering. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Opening the path," she said. Her voice was distant, as if she were already somewhere else. A gust of wind rushed through the library, though the windows were shut. Books rustled on the shelves, their pages fluttering wildly. A bright light began to bloom around her, rippling outward like water. She turned to me, and for the first time, she smiled a sad, knowing smile. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me kindness." "Wait," I called. "What happens now?" "You will remember," she said softly, "even when others do not." The light engulfed her, blinding and warm, and then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone. The library fell silent. The wind stopped. The light steadied. I was alone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty spot where she had been. Around me, the books lay open, their pages still fluttering softly. I picked up the old text she had touched, but the passage was gone, as if it had never existed. No one believed me, of course. When I told my friends what had happened, they laughed and said I'd been working too late again. I stopped trying to convince them after a while. But I remember. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm locking up the library, I swear I see her. Just a shimmer of light between the shelves, like a ghost passing through. And when I look up at the night sky, I wonder if she made it home.